Chapter 5. First requisite. Know God as principle. A member of the Brotherhood speaks. The ancient Mystical White Brotherhood advocates but one principle: the unification of all men of earth, regardless of religion, color, race, or creed. Many are they who understand this principle in the working of the ancient Mystical White Brotherhood, for it is no secret. When man of earth meets man of earth for the true spiritual value of man, which is God-man, there is no disappointment. We're endeavoring to help you, man of earth, must see the Christ light, the God light in his fellow man, regardless of the rank, station, or power physically attained. There's only one rank, one power, one prestige in life, and that is spiritual. Man of earth cannot believe in two powers or two forces. He cannot believe in God and mammon, for he would love the one and hate the other. There's but one source, the source of God, you may say, and be justified in your thinking in saying, what about those who man meets who may be evil in their thinking? But you're not going to meet evil. Remember that all men are created equal. And those who are considered by society as a great evil, there is a part of the Christ power of God, but not so expressing. Remember, those of you whose master spirit is already awakened and who recognize the goodness of God and the creativeness of God, you behold everyone you see as children of the living God. Learn to say and learn to mean it. The Christ in me beholds the Christ in you. Therefore, in this manner, you are annihilating that which is referred to as evil. You're beholding the good and meeting the good. To behold is to take hold of and cling to. Remember, the goodness in you cannot become a part of any evil, should it appear so to express. Only as you see or express it in your thinking. Man can only become a part of that which he visualizes in his thinking. Therefore, as man's mortal thinking becomes pure and elevated, so becomes the subjective thinking in his life's path, which becomes subject to beauty, goodness, to health, spiritual riches, and prosperity. It is deplorable, but nevertheless true, that mortal education quite frequently retards the expression of spiritual growth. What are we trying to tell you? Go forth to find the radiant principle of the Christ, and you shall bring illumination to those who have not yet found their way. If the power that man calls God were to discriminate in recognition of mortal achievement, there would be no progress. Go forth and let all your meetings be with the God-man or the Christ-man, the humble soul, as man understands humbleness, radiated the Christ light to a greater degree than he who walks through marble halls and crystal palaces, and that which man calls life, expressing the ego of his temporal personality strutting with self-importance. Remember, humility accomplishes more than that which swords, bullets, gunpowder, and bombast will ever be able to accomplish. Mortal man must be educated from that which has been destructively perceived by the five physical senses before he can be a pure vessel through which the superconscious or God power can express. It is not complicated. As the Nazarene said, as a man thinketh, so is he. Take yourself a handful of mixed seed and scatter it broadcast over a plot of ground, and it will bring forth blooms of various hues. Each color shall blend with the other until you have a veritable blaze of beauty. Man, supposedly the highest creation of God, is in disagreement one with the other because of the difference of the color of his skin, outward appearances. Man discriminates between one and another because of what he calls education, degrees of societal standing. But ye therefore not given over unto appearances, for hath not God written his law in their hearts? God does not discriminate, and man is God's creation. When man realizes he is God's creation, he too has no discrimination. Remember, it is the divinity you are seeking in all mankind. Any channel that divinity expresses itself through is the lesser of the two. All are worthy of respect, mind you, but the channel is never to be deified. There's only one deity, the deity of God. Unto God let all your errands be, and unto God shall you succeed. When you encounter stray sheep seeking to enter the fold, the doorway, the path of dedication to God through purification of motives, and not over the wall, meaning not wishing to pay the price of the effort and disciplines, nor the price for past disobedience of God's law. It would be needless for we of the council to say, be kindly to them, when stray sheep desire to walk the path of light. They are uncomfortable in self-delusion, and so seek the light of understanding. Take them by the hand and say, you are my brother, you are my sister, come up higher, come up higher. Silently or audibly, it matters not, but say it with a smile on your face and in your countenance. Religious forms are beginning to wear themselves threadbare and finally come to their native nothingness. Man is becoming responsive to the spiritual science. Man must understand he does this by sharing. We're not speaking of earthly accumulations, we're speaking of spiritual knowledge, sharing the understanding of the knowledge you have, sharing the understanding of the wisdom you now have, and sharing it with someone less fortunate than yourself. You will then see the change in your life. You're seeking spiritual illumination. Seek it to share it and enlighten the path of another. The light shed into your path, does it not become an edification to your soul? Be that beacon light to others. We of the Council of the Ancient Mystical White Brotherhood shall never interfere with man's exercise of his free will. Always feel free to speak and act as your conscience directs. However, there is a manner in which man should be very cautious in getting things off his chest, such as that which is established in man's thinking, for man's thoughts are powerful in their own right. But when thoughts are put into action, they gather momentum. While they may be well understood to the one who mentions them, also the manner in which they are mentioned, they're not always understood with the same weight by the one on whose ears they fall. Therefore, it behooves man, as we have frequently said, to speak with a smile in his voice. We have ears which are no longer physical, and we listen, not only to your audible words of thoughts you have, but we also look at the thought before it is put into words. From its color, we know its intended purpose. My dear beloved collaborators, the day is not too far hence when you shall see the color of thought. When the day dawns, as holding a sieve in your mortal hands, separating wheat from the chaff. As the precious wheat drops through, you shall look at the chaff and say, well, this once held the precious kernel of wheat. It is all a part of the pattern. I'm not going to discard it. I will make use of even the chaff. There's never been and never shall be a thought so discolored and so distorted, but what love can bring it into its proper radiance. As a student progresses on the path, his thoughts become more powerful, and that power does not affect another until it is delivered in speech. It is that with which we are concerned. For you will remember, and this may be crude illustration, water runs freely over a greased plank. Therefore, the plank, which is greased with understanding, never absorbs the water. Often, man's understanding is not quite as far advanced as he thinks it is. Often, man speaks a trifle, hastily, and after he has made certain statements, there's a possibility of a season of regret. In making this statement, we are not using a lash, nor do we wish to appear to be chiding. We're interested in but one thing. Our purpose is to lead each one of you onto the lighted path. When we can no longer lead you into the light, we stand still and wait until the light becomes recognized, and we know when that has taken place. It is then we again reach forth and say, come, you're now ready for the next step. We do not know the word discouragement, nor what it means, for we have that to encounter all along the road. Discouragement is of the mortal, and we have left that on the mortal plane long ago. Remember, as the Galilean has said, if I be lifted up, I shall draw all mankind unto me. All mankind, not one, not many, but all mankind. When some of you passed through the gate which leads to the heart of the great bright light of the universal soul's cosmos, we said to you, feed the sheep of the pasture, hold the young lambs to your bosom. Within your soul's consciousness, in silence and sacred reverence, your yea was yea, and unto the mortal your nay was nay, and so it remains, and so it ever shall be. Let this not appear as strangeness, this that you are about to do, for in the divine plane there is no strangeness. That which man calls strangeness is but separating the wheat from the chaff in consciousness. The chaff is not wasted. Be mindful of the sieve, for the ripe wheat, as it falls through the mesh, is saved to plant in the fields of the living God, that it may spring forth. Remember, each tiny kernel of wheat brings forth a number of kernels, and each life devoted to the service of God brings forth many souls into the light of truth. Know God as principle, then ye too may be fishers of men. For you are the kernels of wheat in the great field of Christ's endeavor. You are the tiny acorns, and remember the acorn becomes the oak, and on its branches nestle birds that build their nests and raise their young, and beneath its branches the weary wayfarer rests and finds comfort. Each one has its own individual life to live, individual in the heart of God. You will be mindful. We have always endeavored to separate the mixture of personality and individuality of man. Individuality is God in action. The personality takes on the reflection of environment of the physical. So let's go back to the sieve, the wheat and the chaff. The chaff is never lost. Orthodox theology speaks of salvation. Let us define the word properly. It is to salvage. It is to establish in truth that which could have been lost through error of interpretation. The pasture of life is filled with sheep, many of which have strayed from the shepherd. We are evading the word must and supplanting it with the word shall. The sheep shall be found. All men are snatched as brands from the burning fire. Because mortal man become confused, we lead, and when those we're leading behold the light but dimly, we stand still until we behold the light becoming illumined in this consciousness of those we're desirous of leading. As we have said to you, when we behold your light, we reach forth and say, come, you are ready for the next step of revealings. We, the shepherds of the Father's house, call to you, and through you other sheep have heard the voice of the shepherd. Many prodigal sons have heard through some of you, and they are turning to the Father's house. Strange paths, strange roads, strange avenues, only seemingly so, but the strangeness was but confusion and mortal thinking. Now, dear hearts, you are no longer limited to the confines of mortal confession and confusion. Have faith and confidence in our leading, for we are not leading you for this moment, for this day, but for that which you have called the tomorrows. Tomorrow, you as you pass through the gate upon the path leading to the heart center of the great cosmos, you too will become shepherds in the pasture of God. Truth speaks. One word of truth does greater work, carries greater weight. It is as the tiny kernel of wheat. It multiplies. One word of truth grows, and it becomes the salvation of man. The fire of life tempers the steel. The steel must be tempered to serve its purpose. May we help you? You are standing before life's forge, placing your steel, and we of the council shall not see the steel ill-shaped, nor shall we stand by and see you burn yourself while you are being purified by placing your steel in the forge of life. That would not spell reason, would it? You're not servants, as the word is commonly understood. You are co-workers, young shepherds in the field. In the words of the sage of ancient age of the Far East, I have traveled life's path many times, and I have yet to find an honest man losing his way on a straight path. Ponder the statement. You're honest, ponder it. You cannot lose your way. Remember, should there be any loose spokes in the wheel, the blacksmith of life shall fasten them securely to the hub, and they shall never become loose again. The word Lord or law of God continues and ever shall continue to be the shepherd of men. When man of earth understands in his heart's consciousness that God is love, God is truth, and God is power, there can be no dismay, no fear, no doubt, no lack of courage. The psalmist has well said, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Why is there no lack or fear of evil? The psalmist spoke the word, for thou art with me, and thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. The rod of truth and the staff of understanding have always given and will continue to give comfort. The Lord or law established truth and established love of God in man's consciousness. Man's consciousness is but a reflection of man's thinking. As man desires to think God-wise, so man desires to live God-wise. Christ's light, radiant in the consciousness of man, makes all dark ways light and all crooked paths straight. When in consciousness, a soul reflects on these truths and will not permit pollution of the clear stream of his life, nor will he accept thoughts of discrepancy or failure. That soul is accepted into the Nehemiah plane of the White Brotherhood, for he has become a constructive worker in the light. Just as the shining soul of Nehemiah of old, who hung the gates to the city, newly entered soul shall claim his birthright in God's love, light, and wisdom. It shall walk in the light with the assurance of God and rebuild in consciousness the walls of his own city, Jerusalem, man's Jerusalem, the holy city within man's consciousness. As mankind rises in consciousness because of its desire to know more of the living God, so each one shall in turn become a Nehemiah. The gates shall once again become a protection against the onrush of doubters, those who in thought would destroy your Nehemiah consciousness, the builders, the faithful workers of the eternal principle. When in prayer or meditation, it becomes your desire to seek aid or inspiration from we of the council, from our particular sphere of spiritual teachers, or to reach any member on other planes of the heavenly host relative to some activity or expression in life. It is then there will be sincere seeking on the part of the dedicated collaborators who wish honestly to share with others that which is still unwritten, unprinted, undiscovered, unbuilt, and unpainted. All that is ever necessary is but to visualize us in consciousness, to send out the call, reach up within, and send forth your beam of light within. By using the light which you send forth in prayer or meditation and ascending in consciousness, you will find us there to aid and inspire you. Remember the law of the magnet. The magnet attracts to itself all that is acceptable to the magnet, and you, dear ones, are going forth in quest of truth, not for yourselves alone, but to share. Therefore, you are the magnet. Always see things with the divine aspect, even though at times this seems contrary to moral conception. This is to be expected. Being is becoming, becoming is knowing, and knowing is the fullness of wisdom. Dear hearts, always remember, you do not walk alone. In whatever manner we speak of your true spiritual ability, we have no fear of your ever using this ability selfishly or possessively. We're happy to inform you that you are now penetrating the veil of doubt. All that which has obscured your vision from the fullness of God's knowing is disappearing. As the mist is dissolved by the warmth of the sun's rays, the mist is returned to the oneness of life. We shall never see you wander on barren wastes that cannot be. Closer than hands and feet, we remain with you. There can be no barriers, for you do not stand alone. With each pulsation of the blood as it flows through your physical body, so in consciousness you will become aware of the vastness and the great pattern of life, wherein lies the solution to all that which man calls problematic. In the reality of God, there is no problems. It is only as man hesitates and questions in his thinking does that which man has called a problem arise. God's children were never destined to live in ignorance. Whatever manner of textbook man uses is but a means to cause him to think. When his thought is constructive, it becomes a part of life's great textbook, wherein lies all wisdom. When man sincerely understands that he is about the Father's business and shares his Father's business in love, he will not seek rank, station, prestige, or power. He will not seek the gilded frame of public fame, but because of mortal or physical egotism, which ever creates dissension, he will seek but one gilded frame. It is the golden frame created with the gold of love. We have in the past and are endeavoring to ever keep you, dear collaborators, God consciousness. When man fully knows and understands the underlying principle of all life, life will no longer be a mystery. Silence, meditation, quietude, a continued desire to know further without argument and moral reasoning places him or her in that particular receptive state to receive the enlightenment one is seeking. The Galilean was correct when he said, "As you sow, so shall you reap." That is their interpretation as you read in your holy writ. But in the original, it read it this way: I am the center of the universe. Out of the vast comes nearness. We have given you a key and some instructions previously given. Remember it always. There is part of the sun in the apple, part of the moon in the rose, part of the flaming Pleiades, and everything that grows. Out of the vast comes nearness, for the God of love, of which man sings, has put a little bit of his heaven into every living thing.